Here we go. Mark Harvey here. This is Real Life Game Changers. Are you in for a treat today? Wherever it is that you are listening from or you're watching from, this is going to be incredible. We're going to be talking about how you can set yourself on your journey to however many it is, but you're going to learn from someone who has purchased over 4,500 properties, got to 8 figures, over $12 million in 18 months, and earning £75,000 in passive income every single month. This is going to be awesome. So thank you for joining us. What I want to hear from you is, where are you from? Yeah, so put it in the comments. What country are you from? What city are you from? What is it that you're doing on this fine evening if you're watching it live? By the way, if you are watching or listening live, do put hashtag live. If you're watching this on the replay, put hashtag replay, because if we notice you asking any questions and you've put replay, then we'll know to get back to you, because obviously we probably didn't answer it as we were live. So what we're going to do also is run a competition as always. So to qualify in for a chance for winning this, all you need to do is share this on your timeline and then tag at least 10 other people in whatever platform you're watching it on, if that allows. And also, if you're in the Real Life tribe, you've got to tag 10 people in the tribe and 10 people out of the tribe. So let me see that start to happen, guys, because I tell you something, we are in an absolute treat. It's my pleasure to have you here this on this fine day. Michelle, as we can see at the bottom, 4,500 properties, 8 figures in income in 18 months. That is absolutely outstanding. I'm super excited for everyone to hear your journey, Michelle. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Mark, and for the opportunity to, come in here live and chat. I see that, Tina, Charlotte, John, Silvina are here with us today. And for those of you that are watching, a replay, thank you for your time and for allowing me the opportunity to enter your world and just share a little bit about what I've been doing here in the US in terms of flipping 4,500 properties, not just any property, but specifically flipping what I like to call American dirt, land.
Yes, so we're going to hear all about that. But before we get to that, let's just hear a little bit about your backstory. Like, where are you from? How did you end up in the USA? And just how it all started for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am actually, Mark, I'm originally from Honduras. It's this tiny little country in Central America, in case you don't know. I came here in 1995. My husband, Jack, is actually also from Germany. He came here in 1997. We met in college. And we, after college decided, Cupid struck, and we decided to stay here in the US, go find jobs that would sponsor our green cards, our working permits first, and then our green cards. And we did basically what the traditional plan that society has out there for us, which is to get a great education, find an amazing corporate job. And there we were, 3 years into those corporate jobs with Fortune 500 companies, Jack in the, software space, for me in the financial space. And we absolutely hated those jobs, Mark. We found ourselves pretty much with no freedom, no fulfillment, and a lot of hours. By the time Wednesday hit, I already had a 40-hour week, so we were working anywhere from 60 to 80 hours for someone else. And all that energy and effort wasn't translating into big paychecks. Like, we were paying our bills, but it wasn't really getting us ahead financially. Yeah, we were what I like to call, income statement wealthy. Which there's nothing wrong with, getting a job and exchanging hours for dollars if it's a good translation and a good ratio. But for us, the effort that we were putting, it wasn't for sure at all. And so we started looking into, okay, what could we do? And I think as immigrants, we saw opportunities that other people didn't perhaps see, that's probably one of the advantages of being an immigrant, where you come here, to a place and you pretty much have zero to your name, and you just have, walk in with 2 suitcases and hearts full of dreams. And we started looking into real estate, and, realized very quickly that the traditional real estate, which was involving a house, was a little bit way over our heads for us, because we were immigrants. We didn't know how to estimate repairs on foundations, on a roof, just in general, it was too much for us, but we stumbled into something called tax liens and tax deeds, which kind of like blew our minds, because back home, you cannot lose your property due to tax delinquency, property taxes, but you can here in the US. And so we walked into a tax deed auction, and I recognized that a bunch of the properties that were coming for our auction were actually pieces of land. And I'm like, gosh, people have made up their mind, that they're not going to pay their property taxes and they want to let go of their properties, and they don't redeem the properties. What if we could, reach out to these people way ahead in advance before these properties go for auction, and actually buy it directly from the seller? So over a couple of almost 2 years of trial and error, we kind of like develop our proprietary method. But during that 2-year period, we had, small successes. And my very first success was, buying a piece of land here in northern Arizona. I sit in Phoenix, Arizona. So this is the southwestern of the United States. And we were able to put it under contract for like $400 up here in northern Arizona. And we go and we put our for sale by owner sign, and we're staking our sign on the ground. The neighbor comes out and says, "Hey guys, are you guys the owners? I've been looking and I've been trying to reach the seller without or the owner without success. And I would love to add this piece of land to my property right now, to my existing, property. And I'd be willing to pay it, to pay you $4,500. So that piece of land was actually worth more like $8,000, Mark. But because my negotiation skills were zero, and we had purchased it for like $400, we're like, yeah, I will take the $4,500. And those were the quickest $4,000 that we have made, and almost the same that I was earning in my job, for in a 2-week pay period. I had done it just like that with one deal. And so we're like, okay, what if we start doing this on a mass scale, and instead of doing just one of these a month, we do, 5, 10, and so on and so forth. So it was originally just Jack and me working off hours. It had to be a side hustle. Because our green cards depended on our corporate jobs. If we were to leave our corporate jobs before having our green cards, we would have to leave the country. So that, was not an option. Again, immigrant advantage, zero fear of hard work, putting in the work for the man, over there, the hours over there. And then after hours, putting them on something that was for us, that was actually going to get us ahead. And yeah, once we figured it out, and we were able to figure out a way to scale not only the acquisition but the sales part, we grew pretty much our business to 8 figures in a matter of 18 months. And it's been an amazing ride. That's back in 2002. And 2009, again, the market was seemingly very similar to what we're seeing today, where there's a lot of talk about a recession. We possibly can already be in it. We're at 8.6 inflation right now here in the US. And the tide of, it being a seller's market is shifting. And so that's what we had exactly in 2009. And we didn't see any whatsoever slowdown in our land business. It was this little cash machine that kept on producing cash. And so we started using some of those profits from our land business and started investing in single family homes. And we hold now a portfolio of, long-term single family homes in 3 different markets. Then eventually in 2016, our cash machine kept on giving money, and we started investing in large multifamily, like 100 plus apartment buildings, 100 plus units. And our cash machine keeps on, it's that little golden goose that keeps on giving and giving. And now, we are now diversified across 3 asset classes. I always like to say that our land flipping business is our land cash machine, the one that gives us income statement wealth, kind of the equivalent of a corporate job, yeah? Or if you're a doctor or a lawyer or whatever, your income. And then we're bring that money into single family and into multifamily, and that's our passive income or our balance sheet wealth, the wealth that actually is in hard assets, which you want to be, especially in a time of inflation and of a recession. You want to be in inflation in an asset that actually works with inflation versus against it. And now we also coach others on how to start their businesses in real estate and investing in real estate, exclusively coaching on the land investing side. So kind of like our coaching business now is kind of like our legacy. We have, our little cash machine that gives us income statement wealth, our single families and multifamilies that give us, balance sheet wealth. And now it's my time to really recirculate, wealth with everyday families, and teach them a little bit about what we do, and what really set us free and allowed us to kind of like hit a reset button on that American dream that was not really the dream when we were stuck in our corporate job. So I know that's a long answer, but that's basically the story in condensed.
Well, let's dig deep into those results. But first of all, guys, anybody watching, just put some in the comments about those results. I think that deserves an absolute round of applause. That's amazing.
Yes. I love that, Mark.
Yeah, well, the people watching are loving it. So let's just dig a little bit into it, because going through this whole journey, from being an immigrant and then working hard, working your way up, meeting in college and then growing together. There must have been some challenges. Yeah, there must have been some challenges that made it hard, that made it, some times where maybe you wanted to like give up, or maybe you didn't know if this was going to work or not.
Yeah. I think the challenges were right at the beginning, and for an entrepreneur, there will always be challenges as you continue expanding and up leveling to new levels of growth and engineering new levels of growth for yourself. But I think the biggest challenge is making that first 7 figures, that first $1 million, especially if you're learning, if you're trying to, learn the business model. And in real estate, there's such a thing, or in any business really, when people talk about scale, there's 2 different things that, are going to pose challenges. Scale of like, how do you bring deal flow in, consistent, predictable deal flow, so that you can have, properties closing like clockwork. But also, so that's one level of scale, which in a traditional business, it would be, how can I acquire more clients? How can I, attract them and magnetize them in mass, and so on and so forth. So that's one challenge, is the scaling of the business model. But then the other challenge, that we've had, because we've scaled to the level that we've scaled, has been scaling our company and scaling our team, and actually developing leaders within our teams and our 3 lines of business, so that we can enjoy the 4 freedoms that all entrepreneurs start a business for. You don't just start for freedom of money. I mean, that could be a big motivator, your family finances. But you also want freedom of time, freedoms of relationships, being able to work with the people that you love, and being of service to the, to the right client, to the right type of people. And then eventually, you want to exercise your freedom of purpose, and that you're here on this planet, to do something bigger, to do something greater, to live an imprint in the universe, and to kind of like, be a trailblazer for others, and so on. So along the way, it's been challenges of okay, how are we going to acquire, X amount of deals in order to meet our financial goals. So there were, complications and challenges in terms of team building, in terms of processes, in terms of setting up systems, cash, everything at the beginning, we were, it was bootstrapped. It was every single little bit of dollars that we were making in profits were reinvested into the company. And so on and so forth. So yeah, I think that the typical challenges, that come when you're in this entrepreneurial journey, that I think is a journey of mastery that really never ends, and that you need to learn to welcome challenges every single day, and almost embrace them, because if you want the success, and if you want the financial goals, or the financial freedom, or the freedom of time and relationships and purposes, you need to be willing to say not just yes to the good things, but yes to what I like to call, Mark, the shit sandwiches that come with those goals. Yeah. and so yeah, some of those had to do with in the beginning with, okay, how do I, perfect my acquisitions? How do I, scale my disposition, my sale of my properties? How do I, build a team, and how do I systematize everything with a team so that I don't have to be involved in every single, part of that business. Now, across 3 lines of businesses that we have over 86 team members, and it continues to challenge me, the leadership development, because at the end of the day, that's, I think, an entrepreneur, yeah, they start sometimes as accidental leaders because they want to change something in their families or for themselves. But at the end of the day, as you go in this journey of growing a business, you know that you can't do it alone, that it is a team sport, and you gotta love people. You gotta want to build people in order for those people to then allow you to have the freedom of time, and your business still operate and still run and still produce at a high level, with a smaller involvement from your end, and so on and so forth. So yes, some of the challenges, have been, wide in spectrum, but it was first scaling the model, and then scaling the company, and really building up leaders. If anything that I can say right now, in hindsight now, after growing 3 different businesses, is that we all start a business thinking that, I can do this better than anyone else, but in fact, you have to really value your time and have some self-awareness to recognize, where does my genius really lie, and can I bring someone else in to help me, in the areas that I'm weak, and work with me to help me put in a process in place. Like, for example, a lot of entrepreneurs are visionaries, but they're not necessarily the best at systematizing their business. Well, you can bring someone in and help you versus you trying to do it. But in the beginning, sometimes because of complexities of scarcity, really, of not having enough resources, you do it all yourself. But now, in hindsight, I would say you want to have the leaders first, and those leaders help you build a team, and they will take care of processes, they will take care of systems, they will take care of taking care of your clients, in order for profits to then come out on the other end. You can do the work yourself and be working the production level of your company, or you could start being a manager in your company, or you can being an executive leader in your company, or you can really act as an owner and have all those team members below you doing a lot of the work much better than you could possibly ever do it yourself. So a little bit of lessons. If I start a business right now, I'm like, the very first person I'm hiring is a VP of sales, and that person's going to go and hire me a team of salespeople that are going to either help me on the acquisition or in the disposition of whatever it is that I'm buying and selling, or service that I'm providing. And then probably my second person would be an operations person, again, to systematize the business. And then probably my third person would be an accountant, to come in and give you the reporting that you need so that you can actually run your business by the numbers, by metrics, and hold a team accountable to certain KPIs. So I know that's, again, a long answer, but I don't know if that answered what you were looking for, or were you specifically talking about specific deals?
Well, the thing is, like, we've got some huge numbers in some short time frames we're talking about here. And, I think I probably spent 10 to 15 years trying to figure it out before I even started to make any money. I wasn't scared of hard work.
Yeah.
So like, I think sometimes when people see like these big figures, or they see people on social media or on the TV or anywhere in the media for that matter, they're just like, it's so far out of reach.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
So like, did you say like you was in the corporate job? You're doing your 60 to 80 hours. Did you say for 3 years?
Yeah, for 3 years before we're like, okay, we got to change something. Where you get to that point of, we all kind of like really, I think, behavior wise, we respond to 2 things, to either pain or pleasure. And the level of pain, the meter in terms of pain was so high for us 3 years into it, because we were traveling 100%, from Monday to Friday, not seeing each other. And that was one of the reasons, for staying in this country, was to be with each other. Otherwise, we would have returned to our respective countries. Very little time to actually take vacations, to go, visit family, either back in Germany or back in Honduras. And we were determined to, if we're staying here in kind of like neutral territory, as we like to call it, we wanted to still continue, that those ties to family. Family is very important for both Jack and myself. In the beginning, it was us trying to get ourselves, for example, freed from our corporate job with our side hustle. And that was our biggest why. But eventually our biggest why was, how can we retire his dad, from a job of 40 something years teaching in middle school back in Germany? And how could I go ahead and help my mother as well, who was a single mom? She raised me as a single mother, all her life. How can I help her? And so our why started extending from outside ourselves, to our family. So family has always been incredibly important for us. So yeah. So like you said, yeah, it's hard to pinpoint one specific, challenge, but it is from not being here, not understanding the lingo of real estate, not knowing how things work, to the actual, challenges that come with growing a business. Yeah.
Yeah. So 3 years is pretty short, from what I see, in terms
Yeah,
of
and you're right.
Yeah, but
And
no,
I think we got lucky, Mark. And you know why I think we got lucky? Because land back then, and actually land to this day, Mark, is this blue ocean, this hidden gap in the real estate industry that nobody thinks about. So, we focus on three specific types of land that we buy. We buy infill lots in growing cities. We buy lots in the path of growth, again, around surrounding metropolitan cities. So think 45 minutes outside of a larger city. And infill lots, when I refer to infill lots, I'm talking about, think about a residential area full of houses, and then there's a single lot that there's there alone without a house on it. That would be an infill lot. Yeah. And the third type of property that we work on is recreational land, land that is no more than 2 hours away from a larger city, that would have amenities like where people can go hunting, fishing, boating, doing recreational stuff with their family. And so for us, what we recognize is that we had a completely untapped market, where nobody, we would go into a specific market and we would be the only game in town. And to this day, we've now, educated and replicated, our success in others, and there's other people now doing it, but it's still an untapped market when it comes to your ability to purchase basically property for anywhere between 10 and 40 cents on the dollar, and then being able to quickly wholesale that property without doing anything, without touching it, because remember, it's dirt. There's no toilets to fix, there's no roof to repair, there's nothing to do to it. You just quickly flip it for 60% or 70% of market value, or even 100% of market value. When we do the 100% of market value in our flips, is usually when we're offering seller financing, and we're basically, again, bringing in an incredible service to the market, because traditionally here in the US, banks do not lend on land. So if somebody wants to acquire a piece of land, it's very hard to get a bank to lend you the money. But if I'm able to buy, say, a 2-acre lot or an acre lot for $5,000 that is worth anywhere between, I don't know, $80,000 and $100,000, I can take $5,000 down, from a potential buyer, and my cost of acquiring the property is offset. So there's no money in the deal for me. But then I can go and offer that as a service, where somebody gives me $5,000 down, and then maybe for the next 5 to 10 years, they give me $500 every month. And that's how we were able to actually grow our passive income, to 70, what you called it, 70,000 pounds, $75,000 here in US dollars per month, is by selling land, again, using this method where we're the bank, they give us a down payment, and they make, I call that mailbox money, pretty much. Every month, I have 200 people that we've sold a piece of land. that send me anywhere between $200 and $800 every month, and it's been a game changer. Since we're talking about, real life game changer, that was a game changing thing for us, because that's when we realized that, we didn't have to just flip the land, because if something happens to me, or to Jack, now we have a 14-year-old daughter, but if something was going to happen to us, and we couldn't actively flip land, or you were sick, or the car ran you over, when we recognized that we could do seller financing, that was game changing for us, because it meant, number one, we could replace our income from our corporate jobs using seller financing, of our lots. Number one, build up the passive cash flow basically to equal what we were making in our corporate jobs per month. And it allowed us to also not have to constantly wholesale if we wanted, if we didn't want to. If we wanted to take, I don't know, a month away to go and visit Germany and travel through Europe, we could, we had a team, and they could, be doing maintenance, and perhaps they weren't going to be accelerating our land cash machine, our land flipping business, but they could continue, doing flipping land. And that would not in any way really be a challenge in terms of the expectation of monthly payments that we would have per month, because we knew that, we had sold, 100 pieces of land on year 3 or year whatever. And that was translating into X amount of monthly passive income per month coming in, whether we were flipping land or not. So being able to sell basically land that traditionally doesn't cash flow, because normally cash flow is referred to a piece of property that is improved, that has a tenant in it, was a game changer for us. And having to be able to do that without the hassles of having a tenant, without the midnight move out, without having to repair toilets, without having to do any of the headaches really that come with a house, with improved property, was incredible for us. So yeah. So I think part of it has to do with the fact that it's an untapped market, that is a blue ocean. And most people, when they think of real estate, they go and start thinking about houses. And houses, at least here in the US, it's an incredibly competitive business. You're at a point here in house flipping where you cannot even do direct mail to create deal flow, because it doesn't work anymore. Your response rates are so low that you need to be doing calling or texting and so on and so forth. We're still using direct mail to this day, in the land space, because our response rates are anywhere between 3% and 10% in certain areas of the country. Whereas in these exact same areas of the country, if we were flipping houses, we would have under 1% response rate on our direct mail.
Yeah, it makes sense. And this is what I love about this whole space to do with business, entrepreneurship, is that there's so many different ways. So let's just go back to this whole, this 3 years, you said you were lucky, because what I'm seeing is people stay in a job they hate or a situation they hate for far longer before they say enough's enough. Let me go look elsewhere. Yeah. So I'm wondering what you can maybe help trigger in people's minds. What spurred you to make a move so soon, or do it so soon? You've obviously mentioned the short holidays and the family, but what pushed the button? What made the switch here? Because ultimately that's what this is about. We want to help people flick that switch and go do something that they really want to do in life.
Yeah, I think it comes from fear, and being in a corporate job giving you the false sense of certainty. We actually
how did you pick up on that? Because people think it's the safest thing to do, which
well, it is the safest thing to do until 2001 comes around, for example, here in the US, and we have a tech bubble, or 2011 comes around, and 2001, I'm sorry, and you have September 11, and 2,000 people are being laid off from your company, and you're hoping that you're not one. And so what kind of certainty and security do you have when really your job, and for us, the ability to stay in this country, really was completely out of our hands? Luckily neither Jack or I, were given the pink slip, like we call it here in the US, and we were able to retain our jobs. But I think it comes from fear. It comes from you having a false sense of security in a job, and really, again, not really thinking and looking at opportunities outside of what you're doing, because of the fear of loss. Like like I said earlier, pain or pleasure are the two things that move us as humans. And it's either the possibility of loss or the possibility of gain that makes us move. And a lot of us, basically, the possibility of loss speaks louder in what we talk and tell ourselves on an everyday basis, that we don't hear the whispers of the possibility of gain, and the fear kind of like overtakes us. And sometimes fear is a good thing to have, Mark, because if the lights are red, you should be fearful for your life. And you should stop the car if the traffic light is red. There's certain things for which our limbic or our reptilian brain, where fear kicks in, is there to protect us. But sometimes when there's opportunities that come into our lives, we're taken over by this reptilian brain versus us hitting kind of like an override on that fear and thinking about an opportunity. Well, what is the worst that can happen? And if the worst that can happen is something that you can still live with, or look at if it's for example, a proven process, like wealth has been created through real estate for generations, way before you and I were born and came into existence. Real estate has been an incredible vehicle, not just to create wealth, but really to preserve, to protect, and to pass it on to the next generation. Yeah. And so for us, that possibility of gain was so much bigger that we were willing to put in the time and make really a courageous choice. I think we owe it to our families. We owe it to the ones that came before us and the ones that are coming after us, to really to make courageous choices and leave kind of like this imprint of courage in the universe, so that they want to take courageous choices as well, and so on and so forth. So sometimes it's a matter of deciding that this is it, that I'm not going to live in this comfortable misery, because that's what we had. We had great paychecks, but we were miserable. So it's you kind of like drawing a line in the sand and saying, I'm not going to live in this comfortable misery anymore. And I know that growth is on the other end, and that wherever fear is, fear masks desire, and fear is masking an opportunity for me to unlock my potential. And the more I fear something, the more I run towards it now. But at the beginning, it's not that easy. You have to basically quiet down what I like to call the itty bitty shitty committee, and listen to your higher self, the 2.0 version of you.
That is it. We call it the little voice. It's always chirping away, and sometimes it makes you do something, but a lot of the time it stops people from doing something. So, like, what tips and advice would you have to people who, like, eventually they want to, or like maybe they got like this burning desire that they want to do something different, but they just haven't got the courage to do it? What advice would you give to the people? Because that's what this is all about.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I think you have to go out there and then explore. If you don't know what that vehicle is for you, you need to go out there and explore and figure out, what resonates with you, what kind of like opportunity out there would give you the lifestyle that you are searching for, that you're seeking. Yeah. And explore and see what's out there. But then don't stay there in paralysis analysis, analyzing opportunities and exploring. Yeah. We don't come here to explore or to be spectators, in this life, but to be actually creators. So once you find something that, there's a proven format, somebody has done it before, it's predictable, or to a certain extent predictable. I can collapse time by finding mentorship. And it's something that I can see myself doing. And I love that kind of it. For me, it was important to have cash injections. Yeah. And the cash injections in my bank, resonate with me. I would say go all in and focus on one thing, because that's another thing from us entrepreneurs, is that we are curious people by nature. And with that curiosity means that you might fall into what I call, or what is commonly known as shiny penny syndrome. Yeah. And that entrepreneurial ADD doesn't let you advance in one thing. So once you find the one thing, Stop analyzing, go all in. I mean, all in. Yeah. And go deep and learn everything that there is to learn about that particular opportunity until mastery. And I can promise you that once you simplify versus having too many options, it's like the word decide says, the IED comes from, pesticide, and genocide, and it's basically deciding means to kill in a way. So you need to, once you explore and you find one thing that you like, you have to kill other options, because if you have too many options, you can't decide, you're going to feel overcommitted, which means that you're not committed at all. Yeah. But when you commit to one thing and master that one thing, I can promise you that simplification of energy, of focus, of intention, of attention is going to magnify, and it's going to turn into multiplication. So simplify to multiply results once you have found the one thing that you think is what's going to change, your family finances, the level of freedom that you're experiencing, the lifestyle, and et cetera, et cetera. So focus, I would say.
Yeah, I've got something to add to that. That is amazing there. But I think someone likes your comment there. So, so yeah, so they like that. So yeah, you're so right. And I think what sometimes is the challenging thing, rather than what you just said, which is find the one thing that is like what I'm going to use as a vehicle for whatever freedom I'm looking for, and don't have any other options. But you said, and many people do, that you still had the job until you could replace your income, but the job was never a backup plan. But I think for some people, what it is, it becomes a safety net. So when they start embarking on this path, maybe they don't get the right training or the right mentoring, or training fails them in some way, because we're big believers in all of our businesses, construction, business management, with the property, whatever it is there's the technical side of it, which is how to do it, but then there's also the personal development side of it. So it's a mindset and being able to keep pushing. And people, they set themselves up for this safety net of like, well, I'll give it a go, but if it don't work out, I'll just go back to my job. And I think that there must be a scale point to where you're saying here of moving that.
I totally agree with you, Mark. It's being used as a backup plan, and at some point you got to decide, there's no backup, burn the boats, kind of, so to speak. We couldn't only because our green cards depended on it, and we didn't have a family, we didn't have a child back then. It was just him and I, and so if we wouldn't have, if we didn't have that green card situation where our permanent residency here was in jeopardy, if we didn't kept our jobs, we probably would have done this much faster. But we had to basically work with the time and resources that we had and make the best out of the cards that we were dealt with, pretty much. Yeah.
No, I totally get it. And that's why I think that what I said, I came up with this phrase, when I realized that there was a different world outside, first of all, working my ass off. Like I was on the building site myself when I first left school. Yeah. So working my ass off was one. And then the other thing was like that corporate world, which is, okay, still working your ass off, but this time there's politics, people trying to take you down. People don't want you to be better than them. You can be replaced at any time if you don't do what they say. That when I realized it's a different way. And I thought to myself, I was involved in a couple of businesses. I was even partner in businesses where they wanted to dictate and they wanted to stick people into little holes and not allow them to grow. When I realized all of this, I said, I want to build companies that people actually want to work for, not none of this. None of this Monday blues or happy hump day garbage. I was like, it doesn't matter what day it is. I don't even want people to care what day it is. So that's what we do. And you know what is so amazing when we see all the people, they say like actually doing this business, working, with us in this real life brand, they have the best time of their life. And what we started doing is after all because we was in the IT industry, and after that we started training people in real estate and business, and we realized that, hold on a second, we're undoing a lot of things from the past. So we thought, why wait? Let's open a foundation. So at the time, we opened a foundation training children, which is now called the Wellbeing and Education Center. We call it the WEC Center.
Beautiful.
And it trains children from 4 to 12 years old. And the idea is we give them everything that they need now, rather than them learning a load of bad habits and having to undo them. Like all of this stuff we talk about, all the things that holds people back. They don't pull the trigger. They're trained to work in a job and like be dictated to and feel inferior. So rather than do that, give them the empowerment, the confidence from the beginning, and then the only sector that was left was like corporate. And as you know, they're probably not going to go to any kind of personal development or this entrepreneur mentality that you're talking about here. So we thought, you know what? If they're not going to come to the training or they're not going to come to the personal work, then we'll take the personal work to them. And that's why we went into construction and hospitality and the restaurants and the gyms and hotels, because they're all the places where people don't get treated so well. So we're going to create companies that people want to work for. So either everybody comes and works for us, or the people in the industry will have to change. Either way, everybody wins. And I think the world, somebody said it earlier, the world needs more leaders like you and other people who actually want to empower people to be able to do it for themselves. I don't know if you heard Richard Branson, what he said. He said he trains people well enough so they can leave, but he treats them well enough so they don't leave.
I know this is the same here, in all three lines of businesses. Every single of our team members is encouraged to want to flip land, and we help them start their land flipping business. And you would think that would make, someone that is already at a certain level in their land flipping want to stop working for us. But we have right now one gentleman that has been 16 years for us, and he flips land on the side, and he continues being our head of technology right now. And him and his wife continue to flip land. In our coaching business, we have what we like to call not just our master coaches, but accountability partners to help our students, stay accountable, and they check in with them every single week and so on and so forth. But our accountability partners, we now have, a little bit over half of our accountability partners starting to flip land as well. So they're not just, being of support and mentorship, to our coaching students, but they're also wanting to, flip land, and they've been now 2-3 years with us, and that hasn't prevented them from, from continuing to work for us. I think it's kind of like having a mindset of scarcity sometimes when we don't want to make, the best in terms of offering opportunities to our teams inside of our companies. And like you said, it's up to us to not just see what's wrong with corporate America, and especially when we're building our own teams, in our own entrepreneurial businesses, but not just see and have an opinion about what's wrong, but actually bring a level of change and transformation like you are doing, Mark, right now, along those different sectors and companies, and everyone is going to be winning either way. So yeah, for us, it means, that now, in our accountability division, people that are flipping land are able to service our students even better, because they know intimately the challenges that our students are going through. In our land flipping business, it means that, our team, if they're flipping land themselves, they understand how to be of service to a seller, how to intimately be of service to a buyer, because they're feeling the pain themselves of having to flip land, and sometimes, things going sideways and closings not happening. And so how can I prevent this, not just, for Jack and Michelle, in their business, but in my business as well. And whatever they learn in their own experiences in their own little businesses, that those those aha moments are being brought to our business as well. And so, yeah, it's so important for people to not, I think when you're building teams, for not to be offering people an opportunity for a job, but actually an opportunity to have a career and actually use the velocity of growth of your business to actually bring their personal goals forward as well. Super, super important. Totally agree with you.
Absolutely. And just before we wrap this up, I've got a couple of questions to still ask you.
Yeah.
And so the first question is, let's just say you have a microphone right now that translates to every different language, across the globe. And you got a 20-second message that you could just get to everybody right now. What would that 20-second message be?
I think the 20-second message would be, we are living in an era of creativity, of incredibly creative freedom. And go find your leadership style, go find your vehicle, and make the most out of the cards that you've been dealt right now, and focus on making courageous choices every single day. It's probably more than 20 seconds, but there's got to be some courage there. I'm telling you, the things that I have gone through have required quite a bit of that, especially as an immigrant, as a female in the real estate industry as well, and so that would be my, we're no longer, the American dream is no longer, a white picket fence, 2.5 kids living in the suburbs. The freedom that we're looking all for right now is creative freedom, creative expression. And with that, you need to have freedom of time. And so don't worry about what others think. Find your style, go lead, go do something amazing, go create. No more watching in the sidelines,
Absolutely. That is amazing. Thank you. And just what you touched on there, like a female being in business or being in real estate. And I think many of the people in our community anyway, we have many females. Some of them are watching right now. I can see them commenting, and single moms, and it's so cool that they can like create their own freedom and stand on their own 2 feet and have the confidence to do so. So that is brilliant. So thank you for that. So last question, and before this last question, I just want to thank you for coming on here. Like we always say, if we can just inspire one person or change their trajectory that you're on, it's definitely worth it. But I think many people will watch this, whether it's live, whether it's on the replay, or whether it's wherever else we put it out there. So really appreciate it. You've been awesome. You dropped so much knowledge in such a short space of time. Might even blow some people's mind.
Thank you so much, Mark, for the opportunity, and to just share and be of service here to your audience. And to, like you said, if we can just change and inspire one person, it will have been 1 hour incredibly well lived for me. So thank you so much.
That is it. You are welcome. It's been a pleasure. So here's a question. We always say, we got this saying that in our community, but anywhere really, like we always say, we can never, ever, ever let people forget that they must do the right thing for the right reason. Now, why is that?
In my opinion, is, for example, in any line of business, if the reasons are profits, you got it all wrong. The reason for doing anything is to make something better for people. Yeah. And so that's, you need to be doing it for the right reasons. I always say that, success, money, it's neither evil or bad, and a lot of people associate bad things, with money and the activity of money making and so on and so forth. And I'm here to say it doesn't have a negative charge or a positive charge. It's neutral. The charge that we give it is based on our why. And if our why is a why of the heart that is meaningful, like your family, like changing, generational curses of scarcity for your family, that, the activity, whatever you engage in is you've made it a matter of the heart at that point. And why you're doing it matters. And so yeah, that's my answer to that. For sure.
Yeah.
It's
That's
it's
amazing.
it's why you're doing it, how you're doing it, and not just the outcome. But you want to be lifting others up and yourself up as you're doing whatever it is that you're doing, not just for the sake of like an X dollar amount, as a goal, as a financial goal. Like in the process of going towards that goal, you want to be transformational to every single one that you're touching versus being transactional about it, for sure.
Superb. Thank you so much. So, we have like a little phrase in our community. So I would just love it if you do the honor. If I ask you the question again, because I always ask this question, right? And I love to get everybody's different angles. And that was amazing what you just shared with us. We'll always say in our community is we say, you got to do the right thing for the right reason, because that's the only way to discover your true potential. Can you say that for us?
Yes, you got to do the right things for the right reasons, because that's the only way to unlock your true potential.
Awesome. Fantastic. So thank you so much for everybody watching on here. Please do tag people in it, share it on your feed, or however it is that you do that stuff on here. And let's spread this message, because I think this is some super valuable information and inspiration right here from Michelle. So thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you, Mark.
And thank you everyone for watching. Until next time, like Michelle said, you got to do the right thing